Have you heard about the 2018 study that showed half of prenatal vitamins tested had unacceptable levels of heavy metals? No? Well, now you have. I'm Kat, mother of 3 and founder of Ritual, the company making traceability the new standard in the supplement industry. I remember staring at my prenatal vitamins and finding all these things I was trying to avoid. High amounts of heavy metals, synthetic colorants, and unnecessary ingredients. So, at 4 months pregnant, I quit my job and started Ritual because I believe that all women deserve to know what they're putting in their bodies and why. I'm so proud of our prenatal vitamin. The ingredients are 100% traceable, it's third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals, and recently received the Purity Award from the Clean Label Project. You see, we trace like a mother because, let's be honest, no one cares quite like a mother. But don't just take my word for it. Trace for yourself with 25% off at ritual.com/podcast.
Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, your go-to podcast for all things green and growing. I'm Ben, your allotment guide, and here to help you cultivate your garden and your passion for plants. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Each episode will dig into tips, tricks and techniques to make your garden and allotment thrive. From planting, sowing and growing, we will share all the tips and advice. We will also have regular episodes talking about what we have been up to on the allotment. So sit back, grab a brew and enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for another episode. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. Wow, I didn't realise how much I was talking on for. That's probably one of the longest episodes I've done in a long time. But I hope you enjoyed it and that you found out all about my favourite flowers, my favourite vegetables and my favourite fruit down at the allotment. And yeah, today's episode, I think we're going to talk about what our favourite gardening tool is. What gardening tool can we not live without? I posted this question again on Instagram and Facebook yesterday, so I hope that you managed to answer it. And if you've not, please do go over to my Instagram or Facebook and answer this question as which is your favourite gardening tool and what can't you live without down at the allotment? Now, gardening tools can be expensive or they can be cheap, but obviously if you buy cheap versions, they might not necessarily last and they might just see you out for a few years. But are you somebody like me that puts your garden tool down and then ends up looking for it everywhere, can't find it? You go out and buy another one and you buy another one because you keep losing them. I must have about 10 trowels all around my allotment and I end up buying more every single year because I end up losing them. And then I don't end up finding them until it gets to the winter time when all my allotment's cleared and there's no plants hiding anything and I find them all. I'm like, no, where were you? How many have I got on here? But yeah, definitely. I hope that you're like the same as me and it's not just me that puts stuff down and ends up losing it on the allotment. And the same with secateurs as well. I can put secateurs down and I end up losing them and end up having to buy more. Because the secateurs, they've usually rusted and then I can't use them again. Whereas trowels and little forks you can use again. They don't seem to rust too bad then. But yeah, what tool can you not live without on your allotment? Now, my favourite go-to tool on my allotment would have to be my Wolfgarten cultivator. And this is an expensive tool. Now, I've got a Wolfgarten handle, so you can detach it and put on different heads to what gardening job you're doing down at the allotment. Now, this Wolfgarten head, I think it cost me like £40 to £50 when I purchased it. And it is some tool. And basically, it's a hoe and like a cultivator, rotavator type thing that you push up and down and it chops all the soil up and grinds it all up. It also pulls out the roots and weeds pretty well. it's pretty good, whereas like a proper rotavator would chop all the roots up and disintegrate them, and you'd end up with loads more roots. So be careful when using a proper rotavator. But yeah, this tends to pull up the roots and the weeds quite well, and does really well. So that has to be my best gardening tool out there. Again, like I said, it's an expensive tool, so I don't leave it down at the allotment. I take it back home with me just in case, because I don't want anybody pinching that. I don't mind leaving my forks and stuff down there. If somebody wants to pinch them, they can pinch them, but I wouldn't leave my wolf garden tools down there. So that has to be my favourite tool of all time for down at the allotment. And my other tools, which I can't live without, are obviously my trowel and my fork, because you need them all the time. You end up using them all the time and digging over and doing planting with them, and etc. etc. I don't tend to use a proper spade or a proper big fork often down at the allotment. I'll only use that probably at the end of the year when I'm turning everything over and doing that. But yeah, I don't tend to use them at all, really. I like to bend down and dig things over and pull things out by hand. You should probably actually use a proper fork and a proper spade, because it'll get deep down and it'll get the roots out and stuff like that. But I like to bend down and dig things over manually. Now, another favourite tool of mine, which is the cheapest tool of all time, and it's perfect for weeding in between your vegetables and your flower beds and stuff like that. If you've got loads of stuff in there and you need to be careful, the best thing that I use for weeding is a cutlery fork. Yes, a cutlery fork. Now, if you've got small weeds growing in between and stuff like that, and you can't get your hoe in between, all I use is a cutlery fork, and basically I just scrape the top of the soil off with the cutlery fork, and it gets up the weeds and the roots pretty good. Well, it chops them off, but it stops them from growing, and you just do that every few days. If you can't get the hoe or get them out pretty easy, just use a cutlery fork. Trust me, it's a game changer. Don't use your best silver ones though. Just use your cheap ones. But yeah, it's a go-to. If you've never tried using a cutlery fork for weeding in between your veg, try it, and it's just a case of just scraping the soil, and it'll get the little weeds out and sorted for you. And trust me, it does work. So that is another go-to tool. And then obviously I do love a pair of secateurs. But can anyone please recommend a pair of secateurs that don't break after about a few months? Every time I buy a pair of secateurs, they end up broken. The springs pop out, they bend, they rust easily. Obviously, that's from me leaving them out. But I've never had a pair of secateurs that have lasted me at least a year. And I'm tempted to buy a really expensive pair of secateurs and get some with a guarantee on. And then if they don't survive, then I can ask for a new pair. Wolfgarten are very good with their tools. They offer like up to 25 years guarantee on some of their tools. So if they do break, they will replace them, which is fantastic. They're guaranteeing that they'll just fix them and be fine and perfect. And yeah, I am looking for a decent pair of secateurs. So if you've got a pair of secateurs that have lasted you, please do send me a message and let me know which brand you have got, as I would love to. And if there's any companies out there listening to this, please do get in touch, as I would love a pair of secateurs that do last. And probably the last tool out of a lot would have to be a pair of loppers. You can't not have a good pair of loppers down at the allotment. And obviously, every year you prune your fruit trees back at the end of the year. Your plum tree and your cherry trees, you prune them around now so that it don't get silver leaf. And yeah, I do love a good pair of loppers when it just slices through that branch and it comes tumbling down and hits you on the head like it always does with me. But yeah, those are pretty much my favourite tools of the allotment. So my favourite has to be my Wolf Garton soil miller, which I use for digging over my beds and rotivating them and clearing them all, getting them all ready for the year ahead. And then it'd have to be a cutlery fork, which would cost you less than probably about 50 pence. But yeah, that has to be one of my favourite of all time. So let me know what your favourite tool is. Go over to my Instagram page after this podcast or my Facebook page and leave a comment. Let me know what your favourite tools are, as I do love to hear from everybody that's listening. And they are going to be more interactive, some of these podcasts now. They're going to be talking about what we're posting on our Instagram and Facebook so that you can get involved and leave a comment and get involved in the daily topic of the day. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast for today. And if you're new to listening to this podcast, please do give us a follow. Please do give us a like. And remember to click the bell so that you get notified when new podcasts come up. And if you feel like sharing it to your Instagram story, click the share button and click Instagram stories and share it to your followers so that we get more people listening and tuning into this podcast so that I can keep producing them. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Gardening with Ben. I hope you have found some useful tips and inspiration for your own gardening and allotment journey. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. And if you have a moment, I'd love for you to leave a review and share the podcast with fellow gardening enthusiasts. Your support helps us grow this community and continue bringing you great content. You can also follow us on social media on every platform called Gardening with Ben for daily gardening tips and updates. Happy gardening, and until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with